conference will now be recorded.
Welcome, everybody, to the regular session of the Common Council of the City of Port Orford. My name is Mayor Ann Velisis. We're here on Thursday, March 19th, and we're starting the meeting at 5:31. I want to, we're having this evening, as I mentioned, several of the counselors. We have one counselor who's excused, Counselor Lovendall is excused, and we have two counselors who are sick. Counselor Pogswood and Counselor Webb are also excused because of that. So we have a quorum because we have three counselors present and me. So we'll do the roll call. Counselor Brennan. Here. Counselor Burns. Here. Counselor Rask. Here. And let the record show that we also have with us Administrator Radcliffe and Recorder Harrison present. Okay, please everyone rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, wonderful. I don't think we have any additions to the agenda tonight. Melissa, did you want to add this as part of your report?
I can.
Thank you, Joseph.
Oh, yeah, I can add it to my report.
As opposed to as a separate item. Okay, well then let us move on to citizen concerns. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to get up and say anything, share anything with us? No? Okay, do we have any citizens online that would like to speak during citizen concerns?
Just giving it a second. I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand or commenting in chat.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Please, what you have to do is come up to the front and state your name and address, please, for the record. Oh, okay. We're just doing name. Yeah, state your name.
43425 Elk Hill Road, Port Orford. I'm just wondering if the city can do anything about the post office situation.
That's a great question. We don't normally take questions and answers during this period, but I will tell you that so far, I have raised it a number of times with Representative Hoyle's office. And, it is a matter of the federal government. And so it's not something the city can really do aside from doing that. The most recent thing I did was I did ask, just so you guys know, Representative Hoyle's staff person if we should write a formal letter from council or if I should write a letter as the mayor. So I'm having conversations to try to figure out what we might be able to do. In the past, I know individual citizens have complained and they needed a specific complaint by somebody to do something. So that's a step an individual citizen could make.
And that they need to, the best result is to contact the post office and get a case number and then use that case number when you contact the representative. And I did hear that we have a postmaster now on site. So that's.
We do.
A new one? Yeah, that must be new, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that person's name, Clary?
I didn't get the name.
Okay.
But they're wading through the backup when that driver left. It was like just the next day, things started piling up. And that was a couple of weeks ago. So they finally got a driver. They're looking for another driver. And so they're just wading through the piles.
Well, if there's anything that we as a city can do, it would be nice if we did it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
How do you get a case number?
Okay. Was there anybody online, Joseph?
I'm still not seeing anyone raise their hands
Okay.
or comment online.
Okay, so hearing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent calendar. And we have 3 sets of minutes here. So
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
any further discussion? I have a few specific little items, amendments to suggest. On page 5, in the middle of the thing, it says a quorum of the council will be present. I think we should change it to may, just to reflect accuracy.
Where are you?
Um,
At 6, number 6.
Page 6, item number 8.1. It says new revisions are being discussed among the council. And I think that makes it sound like the council members are talking about it on our own, which would not be correct. So I think we should change it to new revisions will be discussed tonight, because that's when we discussed them.
Okay.
Got that? And then the top of page 7. D1, the second line, fixing the water filtration system, just for clarity. And then I just have one more for the budget minutes.
Yeah.
And that one doesn't have numbers, so let me see. Thursday. So it's for the Thursday, June 5th. Item number 4, the patch. I would cut off the in roughly 3.5 years and just end it on until the next police levy can be voted on, period. I went back and listened to it, and we kind of had a discussion about when it was, and I think just not having the specific years is more accurate because we discussed that council would be
All right.
discussing it.
On the June 5th meeting, item 4, remove, what was it that you wish to have removed?
In roughly 3.5 years under 4A.
All right.
Anything else? So without any further discussion, can we just make the amendment? Can we amend with, make that with amendments?
I'll move to pass the, or I'll add the amendment to my motion.
Second.
To my second.
Okay. With that, we'll call for the vote. Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Rask.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You
You
need to vote.
have to vote.
Oh, I thought you said I didn't have to vote. I do have to vote. Okay, so yes, I passed them. Okay, so moving along, we have no presentations to council, so we'll move on to departmental reports. So the first one up is Administrator Radcliffe.
Okay, hello, everyone. It's a packed house. That's kind of fun, not talking to empty chairs. One of the things that we get to do every year is the ethics filing for elected officials. I know they sent it out earlier than what I had put here. And so did all of you get emails to that effect?
I did not go on
Okay, not even at your private,
Uh,
is it? Okay.
either one.
Okay. You may need to go with that because if because I tried to get everyone's put together to have everyone's email be correct
Right.
this last time, but some of them, those changes didn't come through. So if you would go into that, and I can help you with that, not now, but help you with that, to look in, it's that SEI filing.
Right, I'm
The
familiar
Oregon
with what
ethics.
it is.
Yeah, well, you can go in and you can edit your own contact information. And actually counselors have to go in and edit their own. Once I create the account as the kind of overseer of this, then if there are changes that need to be made, then you have to go in and make those. So if you go to the Oregon Ethics Commission and then go to that SEI,
Okay.
which that information is right there in that bullet on the action required. You can go to that website and then update your contact information.
Oregon Ethics Commission, SEI.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. So that's something, again, this needs to be completed by April 15th. So tax day and that day are one and the same. I did want to remind too that we do have, speaking of elections coming up in November, everyone that sits on this side is, their seats will be available in November. And so there is a process there that folks, if they're interested in running for a counselor seat, there's a process and you can go to the Curry County Clerk's website to find out how to do that. But I just wanted to give a heads up to folks on that piece. A question that came up last meeting was with the change of Civil West, who is our engineer of record, and they have actually come under the umbrella of another company called Verdantis. And so I gave information about that they still do business under Civil West. They still have their EIN number. They continue to have the same numbers, the phone numbers, the same website, all of that. But because there was a concern about, does that invalidate our engineering of record contract we have with them? And he answered back that no, it does not. So I gave you his information as promised. One of the things that came up recently, the mayor and I had a meeting this week with Coos Curry Electric Cooperative, so CCEC, about the trees that have been cut throughout the city rights of way. This year, we asked to have this meeting because we've had a lot more feedback about the number of trees and how far the trees have been cut underneath the power lines. So we as the city own the rights of way, which holds our infrastructure, sewer lines, water lines, things like that. And then CCEC and example of Spectrum and Beacon and Ziply, they give us a franchise. We have a franchise agreement with them to hang their lines, and it's within our right of way. However, with the CCEC, because they are the ones with the poles and they are the ones with the electrical lines, they are the ones in charge of maintaining the vegetation and the right of way underneath those lines throughout the town. And in the past years, they've done more trimming of trees and more pruning of trees, whereas this year we've had many concerns from people that they've been a lot more aggressive with their trimming and cutting. And so they explained that the state has said that they need to be more aggressive with vegetation removal based on wildfire mitigation. And so there were a lot of the situation in California with the Paradise fires and things like that. A lot of electrical companies took a lot of heat and litigation for all of that. And so the state of Oregon has now said that companies will do that. I was frustrated, and I think it came through to them that had they maybe done a little bit more marketing and explanation of that, maybe we would have understood that more. Whereas, you know, when you go to work and then you come home and you had trees in the morning and then you don't at the afternoon, it can be pretty jarring for people. So anyway, they gave us a letter and information about that as to why they were more aggressive this year. So I just wanted to let folks know that we did follow up on that to get more information from them. And so if you are unhappy with something that's happening with that, please don't call the city, because they're the ones that are doing this and are in charge of that. And so you can contact CCEC. Scott was the main fellow's name, and also Sean.
And they're going to be apparently doing a big article in the upcoming Rural Light. So if you're interested, you can make sure to read that.
Mm-hmm. And then just the last thing that I'll talk about was I was approached by via email and phone, someone who was very interested in putting electric vehicle chargers throughout town. The one he first was talking about was to put it at Battle Rock, and I've said no, because it's already pretty congested there. And also the area there is very difficult to even dig or put other things based upon the historical status and the historical protections that are there for our tribal ancestors. And so that is an area that we don't disturb. And so one of the questions with that was he then asked, well, are there other places in town that the council would be interested in having they come in, they do it, but to have other vehicle charging stations that we would then oversee and that we would be in charge of. They would do it, and then if we got, and he explained that there could be some revenue involved with that, but I don't know how many it would be, and I don't know what that trade-off would be. So I just wanted to kind of pose that question, or do we want to keep it how it is now, that businesses who want to have these things are the ones that would put them on their own property, that they would do that, knowing that we have some here at Adapt on Titchener, and also I think there was plans, as I understood it, for Rays. We're having people come in to look there to put some charging stations. So kind of keep it the same, or if we want to get into the EV vehicle charging game.
I did talk to Terry and they are pursuing that.
So Rays is pursuing it. You confirm that? Okay, thank you, Counselor. I know I would suggest with staff capacity and everything else that trying to get into this situation, staff recommendation would be to allow the businesses, if they would like that on their property, to do that. But I want to make sure that that seems reasonable to you.
Absolutely. We have enough to do.
Amen, sister.
I
Okay,
agree. Yeah, absolutely. Wholeheartedly.
okay.
Anything else?
I believe that was all that
We're working on, starting to work on the labor negotiations with the union.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've met with the association, our police association, have had one meeting. It went very well. I was very happy with that. And then I have another meeting next week with the Teamsters. So again, we got two negotiations coming at the same time for that, as well as we're very busy with the audit, as well as then looking at budgeting. So we are hopping in there as always, it seems. So
Great, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
any other
Melissa.
questions?
What is the repair cafe?
So this was something that is, as I understood it, was through Main Street. And so well, Councilor Burns might have more information on it, but basically it's a Main Street initiative to get together that looking at, instead of throwing things away, that you have more of a fix-it culture was kind of the verbiage that I had heard. And so this is a place to go and learn more about that and have a repair cafe where you could work on a project of repairing items.
And I just learned that there's going to be part of it that's a kind of vintage fashion show, so anyway. So it sounds like it's going to be a fun event coming up in the last weekend of April. So anyway, cool.
Okay. And I want one more thing to say, which is happy belated birthday to the mayor. Yesterday was her birthday.
Oh,
So yes,
well,
so
thank you,
thank you, Mayor,
Melissa.
for all the hard work you do. It is good to be in this together. So
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. Thank you.
We don't have to sing, right?
No, we already did the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that's
we'll
enough.
do one. Thank you. Okay, well, so the next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. And as I just put in there, it's been pretty busy time. Mostly I've been really focusing on the grant stuff. And I'm really trying to figure out the funding for our two highest priority water projects, which is our dredging our reservoir and also removing our culvert. In the last council meeting, we talked about how the bids were coming in for the dredging. We got that, and we'll be looking at those bids tonight and approving them, hopefully. And basically, there's lots of moving pieces to line up because we have to line up the permitting, the bid, secure the funding, and get the bids and contracts. We kind of have to line it all up to make it all happen. And there's different opportunities for funding. And I think the best one that we have going is it's a 50% grant, 50% loan, and the loan part is 1% over 10 years. So it's actually a really good deal. Anyway, but I'm still kind of working out all the details on that with the funding agencies, which is just a lot of details and things that they ask us for, like paperwork of all sorts. So anyway, that's kind of what I've really been focused on trying to line out. And in my report, I put in an update on the status of all of the grants that we're working on. And I'll just mention that on the beginning of this week, I had a really fun day because to close out our OWEB grant to buy the piece of land, we had to do a site visit. So I took the gal from OWEB on a hike up into our drinking watershed land. And so I always like it when I can get outside for mayor workday. So anyway, that's about it. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Hearing none, we will pass it back to the next item is finance. And this is like the first time in a long time we have some financial reports in our packet because we're now working with the Kaitolas as our new financial consultants. And so I think, Melissa, you told me this is really, it says it's as of February 28th, but really not all of the numbers are even quite reflected in there because they're still in process of getting everything entered and up to speed.
So this is what the Kaitolas had. I mean, this was kind of an aside, so you have a snapshot of kind of where we are. Again, one of the things that makes this inaccurate, very clearly, is that if you look on any of the places where it says sort of general, where it says transfers and internal, and any place that's along that says transfers, they all say 000% on them, because when we had Ann Heath, she had particularly personnel moved us to the general fund, so you could see what everyone made, and all of it was very clearly there, which meant then, because the water funds have to pay for, I'll use John Isidore, and the street funds pay for John Isidore, and the sewer funds pay for John Isidore. So then transfers needed to come out of all those other funds to the general fund to pay for that. How it had been done before, and how it's going to be done again now, is that just percentages of what each of us as personnel out of those different funds will live in those funds. So it might show 20% of my wages in water, and it might show 20% of my wages in sewer, and it might show 5% from parks and 3% from streets. It's going to be drib-drabbed out over those accounts again. So because we're going back to that old way of doing it, they have not done the transfers into the general fund to then turn around and do them back out again. So it's again, because we haven't had consistent financial advising this whole time, that the information's correct of how much was there and where we're at. But as far as to really dig down and say, well, what exactly was this and what was this, all those transfers haven't been done. So we've been trying to run a very tight ship so that we do have more beginning fund balance for starting now fiscal year 27. But
Since we've
This
been
was-
kind of not knowing exactly
We-
the status, we've sort of had to be running it particularly tight. So
right,
So, and he's logic was just not appropriate, or?
I don't know that it wasn't appropriate, because it does make sense, because what we had asked and what she had looked at doing is trying to simplify the whole budget. So it's much nicer if you can just look in the general fund and see, oh, look, there's the staff, and here's half the planner, and this is what he makes and what it does to have it all in one place. And it made sense as we're going out for grants and doing these things to have everything, since the general fund is kind of the main fund that things can then be pulled. It's the only way you can pull money out of to put in other places. So if you have it locked into other funds, if we get low in the general fund, you can't just do transfers in and out. You can do them short term, but then you have to pay them back by the end of the year. So it becomes very robbing Peter to pay Paul within your budget. Whereas having it in the general fund and then can dole it out, that's much how it was described from her, as that was much cleaner. But you have lots of
Detail that way though in the end for bookkeeping.
correct. And so in talking with the Kaitolas, and what I've said is whatever you fellas do to make it how it makes sense to you. And he said, this is how we do it in the other cities and other entities we do. So we'd prefer to do it this other way. And I said, cool. So I think there's benefits of, trying to clarify and do these different things. But again, they're new. They're still trying to dig into our Tyler system and figure out what's happening while trying to do the audit and to look back at what she had done for fiscal year 25 to say, why did we do this? What happened? And then also now looking forward for budgeting to say, what are the projects we're working on? Where the capital outlays we think are going to happen, and then to be able to plan for those. So all the goals that we've talked about and the projects we've talked about in the last, couple of years to do those prioritizations of council goals, priorities, that should be the basis of then what our budget lines up to. And so we're still trying to model that to say, what are the major projects? And Mayor and I have been working on particularly those things of, our dredging of our reservoir, along with the culvert that's above there to get that project done. And then also this filtration system to upgrade our filters within our water treatment plant are the main projects. So that will be the focus of these moving forward. In addition to having enough contingency and enough money in water and sewer and other places when something that we can't see blows, well, then you have to go fix that, and that too costs money. So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
And we'll learn more through the budget process about going back to that other system. Anyway. Any other questions on that? If not, we don't have a public works report, do we? We don't.
John has been very sick, so I will just let you know that he's been out very sick, like other members and council members have been around. So he's not been at work to get this report done. I just went and talked to the fellas this afternoon at the water plant. They've done, when it's not raining, then they can make water and do well, and they aren't going to have to run it all night. So that was really nice, because when I was over there, it was at this afternoon, I think it was at 23.1 feet
Great.
in the tower, which is exactly where we want it to be. But then of course, overnight and in the morning, the town will use about, 2 feet out of there. So then they'll get them in tomorrow and run it again. So remember, our most difficult times to keep water in there are when it's raining and in the summer when we don't have very good flows. But it seems like our flows are doing well at the reservoir at this point. And again, as long as it's not raining and stirring everything up, they can make water well. So that's the holding pattern we're in at this moment.
8 hours a day instead of running the plant.
24/7 for multiple days to make up
Yeah.
when we can have, less
The
turbid
less the
water.
Plant runs, the less problem with the manifold at this point.
Correct. But they've been on a good run. I heard this afternoon that they've been very happy with what's been going on. So yeah, it's good.
Good news.
Great. Okay, next we have planning. Joseph, I see there's a brief thing in here. Do you want to just say something briefly about?
I'll just state what's in the packet. The Planning Commission has begun working on looking at enforcement of the dark sky ordinance and right-of-way issues, as well as animal control. The first two were directly, directed by council previously, and then the third one is sort of the third issue that has come up while we begin to look at enforcement. Additionally, just as a reminder to our citizens, if you get an email or a phone call from someone saying that they're the city planner and that you have unpaid fees and that you need to click on some link that we send you, or they ask for credit card information, that isn't us. If you have outstanding fees to be paid for planning, we will let you know and then tell you that you can come in and pay it or send us a check. Just putting this out there because there are still issues with scammers pretending to be municipal or county planning staff.
Thank you, Joseph. Okay, we had a Parks Liaison report that was submitted by Councilor Lovendall. She is excused tonight, but I did want to bring up one thing that she told me about, which was we'd had that question mark about the skate park, and do we need to put a fence around the skate park for purposes of safety? So she checked into the insurance
Right.
company, and they said, well, really, what you need to do is just put signs up that say, use at your own risk, and kind of have them. So that to me seemed like a good idea. I don't think we have those at the
I don't think
parks
the
right
signage is
now.
as much as we could.
So it seems like that would be something we could do with relatively little I mean, with relatively little cost compared to like buying a fence, which I think was very expensive. So is that something, Melissa, that we can direct staff to do? I mean, Counselor Lovendall was wanting to just bring it to council, but to me, it seems like that's kind of a no-brainer. If the insurance agency says that's a way to avoid liability for us and that we should definitely do it, we should probably just do it.
Yep.
Okay.
What about, there's been a couple of people get stuck down in there. Do we have any, like maybe one of those fire escape ladders or something that unrolls? Is there something like that that we could put out there that would?
Well, that was one reason we were thinking about putting the fence in around it so people didn't walk down there.
Yeah. Well, but you got to still have access.
Right. Well, but that's if we put up a sign that says you know, or like
Yeah.
don't enter or enter at your own risk or something. But there were some animals that also got stuck in there, so that was not so great.
So kind of because I also talked to the insurance agent and she had said, you know, at minimum, put the signs up, but that, you know, it does make sense if you're having critters or other things in there that would be more protection. But it was basically at minimum, we have to have the signage. So.
Well, we have, you know, this parks planning. The other thing that's in here, you know, I think that Sarah mentioned this in the project. I don't know if she mentioned it in here, but they're finally trying to kick off this planning grant, which is a grant that will help the city do planning for the future of the park. And I think in that would be a great opportunity to say it's a priority to put a fence around here, and then we can get all the things that are on the to-do list for the park and hopefully find a grant.
Grant that would cover.
Yeah. So anyway, but in the meantime, it probably would be good, especially for that area.
Right.
Okay.
And I would say on this as well, one thing that I noticed here was the kudos to the McMurtrys, who are the new park hosts. They have been, everyone I've talked to about this has been nothing but complimentary about how fabulous they are. I went over the other day, I had to get in the A-frame and they had a little wheel wagon thing and they were like raking up the pine cones that were in the grass so that no one would twist their ankle on the pine cones. And I was like, wow, you are fabulous. So I just want to publicly say that the McMurtrys are really done a nice job over there. And I've had nothing but compliments from folks around.
Excellent.
So
That's
yeah,
so good to know.
kudos.
Thank you, Melissa.
Mhm.
Okay. Next is, there's no historic preservation report, but I'll just do it because I kind of just mention a few things because I'm kind of sitting in with the project to put a sign up at Fort Point. And that we finally, you know, we had brought to this body, the commission brought the sign text. It's finally been ordered and there's a plan for the chief, gosh, I can't remember his last name, Futch, I think is his name, to come and with youth from the Coquel Indian tribe to come and help install that sign sometime between now and the Run to the Rogue. So sometime in the next couple of months, there's going to be that project to do that. They don't want to install a bench, which we also had planned to go up there. So I was going to try to, we have some little grant money to do both of those projects. So I was going to maybe look into seeing if we could talk to somebody locally to hire to do that job. Port liaison, Brett's not here, so I haven't heard anything from them lately. Otherwise, and then the watershed liaison report, the Watershed Council's having an event on Saturday for World Water Day at Mr. Ed's from 2 to 5, and they're going to be showing a film and there's going to be some talks and things going on with watershed themes. So that's that. Fire liaison report, anything from you, Deanna?
No, not really, other than, you know, they've been trying to get recruitment and really struggling to get some recruitment. So if anybody's interested, you know, contact Dave Duncan or Wyatt
Do you know offhand what our numbers are right now? Like how many people we have?
I think it's 12 volunteers that they're at right now.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I did suggest to Wyatt that maybe I asked age qualifications and he said 16, which they really can't do a whole lot, but they can, there's a few things that they could do. So I suggested maybe going and doing like a presentation at the high school or the community college, maybe drum up some interest that way.
Great.
So he's going to look into doing that.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you for that update. Okay, so now we are going on to old business. Let's see, number 7. Melissa, this is the DEQ wastewater issue update. Do you want to do that?
Sure. So we had talked before about DEQ had done a file review, and they found that in 21 and 22 that there were some pHs that were out of the range of our permit, and also that there had been an incident of a late reporting by a couple days. And so they went and we were dinged for that, fined for that. And I said, wait a minute, that was a long time ago. Wait, let's talk about this. So I requested a hearing. And so we had a hearing with the DEQ folks, and they went through, and based on the fact that we now have a level 2 licensed certified operator, and the issues happened when we were between operators at the wastewater treatment plant. And so that was why the plant kind of went sideways at that point with the pH. And now we actually do extra pH monitoring and extra things. And so they did lower the fine, which was kind, based on our improvements. And also we can pay just a percentage of that fine, which we will do. And then the rest of it can be used to do a supplemental environmental project. So an SEP. So in an SEP, you have to do something that is either to help the type of project to either have pollution prevention, pollution reduction, which is what we've proposed, public health protection, environmental restoration or protection. So there's different categories of project that you can do for this. And so what we've opted to do is looking also based upon our wastewater treatment plant and the upgrades that we would like to do. They said that the pollution reduction can be improved if we do those equipment upgrades or those upgrades within our wastewater treatment plant. So what we will do, we still owe $5,925. Of that, we had about a little under 2,000 that we just had to outright pay them, and then we'll use the remainder to do those upgrades within our wastewater treatment plant. So I am going to, once I'm letting you know this, then I will officially turn in all that paperwork and let them know, and turn in our supplemental environmental project. Basically you have to hire a third-party entity to come do the work. And so it could be either some electrical upgrades or things like that in order to improve our plant with a third-party group to do that. So that is the plan on that. And then that will be all buttoned up and taken care of. But I wanted to give you that update.
Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, now we are going to move on to new business, and we have the first item is the Curry transfer and recycling rate increase. And we have Tiffany here tonight. Tiffany, if you'd like to come up, you can introduce yourself and just give us your brief. We've gotten your letter, but you can tell us about it briefly if you'd like.
Yeah, good
Is there
evening.
not a chair there?
There is. Is
Oh,
it
okay.
okay? May I stand? Is it okay?
It'd be better if you sat
Wait,
down,
okay,
because
no problem.
otherwise it's.
People
just
are looking at
shirt.
your stomach.
Yeah,
That's
looking
right.
at your shirt. There you go.
Oh. Okay, got you. Thank you all for having me this evening, and it's good to see you all again this year. My name is Tiffany Rugby. I'm the site manager at Curry Transfer Recycling. Last year when I was here, I was office manager. So, and actually Luke wasn't with me last year. I was here by myself, but I met Alyssa with Luke. And so again, thank you for having us this evening. We are here once again to discuss the annual rate increase for the Port Orford residents, city residents. And this is based on the CPI, the consumer price index, which for 2025, that was 2.9%. So with that rate increase, the residents of Port Orford will see a 93 cents per month increase on the average 32-gallon can. And again, that's, we're asking for the full amount this year. And, we would, as you always, like to thank, the city of Port Orford for allowing us to partner with you and to serve the residents here. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, about the trash and the rates.
Seems very fair.
I just had one question I wanted to ask, and this may be not so much about the rates, but since we don't always have CTR come up, I'm gonna ask you. So we had a situation that last fall where there was some burning out at the dump, and it really created a lot of smoke in our city that was a real problem to a lot of people. We got a lot of complaints about that. And it just occurred to me, like we were talking earlier about, with our franchise with CCC, it would be helpful for CTR to be aware that our whole community is downwind of that. And if that has to happen, either to help people understand that it's going to happen ahead of time, and so I was wondering if we could request that for the future, just to that awareness about, the need to protect the air quality for our community.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I know we've had several phone calls at the office about it. We've addressed that. And I've talked to my district manager. I know my maintenance manager, Josh, has got some information. The solution that we are looking into is what's called a curtain burner. And basically what this would travel between Nasika Beach where we burn and also Port Orford. As you all know, the brush has to stay in the county. I mean, it cannot leave our county.
Right.
So, and what this is with this curtain burner, it's basically an incinerator. It looks like a big roll-off box, and it would burn. It would, alleviate a majority of that smoke that is, affecting the residents when we burn. Can we notify you when we're going to burn? Most definitely. We can definitely communicate that because we know ahead of time. We have to get our permits with DEQ, so we do know ahead of time when we're going to burn. So I'm more than happy to have my ops manager, Ken, or myself coordinate and let, Melissa, you guys know that, hey, this week we're going to start burning, and then, get the word out to the residents. I mean, we can even do to the city of Port Orford, the ones that have our app, we can even send, a text message to them saying, hey, we're going to start burning this week. We are just struggling to, and I've actually asked Ken to talk to Martin Abs from DEQ to maybe submit a letter stating, hey, the burning, we understand has to happen, but encouraging, on our behalf to get this curtain burner, because a curtain burner, I mean, it's $211,000 was the quote that we got to purchase it. And even just to rent one was going to run about $65,000 a month to rent.
Holy
So
smokes, wow.
I mean, it's definitely, it's, not cost friendly at all. But it's something that we are pushing towards. We definitely want to. My DM, he's over us, Coos and Florence, and it would just kind of travel. It would be something that would travel up and down the coast and make everything better, pollution wise, everything. So, yes, we will definitely communicate with you when we are going to burn. Unfortunately, this isn't going to happen this year anytime soon. We put in for it the last 2 or 3 years. We put in for it as part of like our capital, and it hasn't happened yet. So, but more than happy to communicate when we get our permit, when we're going to burn, so that way we can let the residents here know. And
I think that would be super helpful. So I
Okay.
appreciate that. And I'm really glad to hear
Sure,
you're
yeah.
working on a solution. That's great.
definitely.
I know the sod people were working on, trying to figure out how to do, I don't know if there's any coordination, with the people who are cutting the brush for
Brush, yeah,
sod, also trying to figure out how to incinerate that.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but we definitely have our quotes and, so we're pushing, to get that curtain burner because it would be all around good for everybody. So,
Yeah. Great.
yeah.
Any other questions about the rate increase or anything else with CTR? Okay, with that, then I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the rate increase from CTR.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first or in a second. I'll call for the vote. Counselor Rask,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
and I'm casting a vote yes also. That's it. So thank you so much,
Thank
Tiffany.
you. And I know you had mentioned, I said, you only see me one time a year. So this year I'm doing something a little different as site manager. So I hope to be back in the fall to kind of present, to the council members, just a little bit more about the CTR and like our safety and the revenue, and talk to you more about the RMA, the Recycle Modernization Act that's, new for us and everything. So
And I know too, from talking to some of the county commissioners, that there's some issues with the facilities that's at our transfer station. And so there might be more,
yeah.
I know things blow from
Yeah,
there
it's-
and such.
yeah.
So yeah, it would be great to understand more what's going on
And
there.
so, and we definitely, the Porterford transfer site, the restructure of that is definitely in the works. Mark's been working with Rabia, and they've been great communicating back and forth. And, I think they've got the contractor who they're going to use. It's just a matter of getting all the ducks in a row and, what we needed as far as dimensions. So we'll definitely communicate that with you as well on, the restructure of that, because it's a mess when the wind blows and the trash. You could pick it up one day, and between that and the homeless that are in there going through things, it's a mess the next day.
And
So
did you know that the wind always blows here?
Of
So-
yes.
Anyway,
So
okay.
thank you very much.
Well, thank you,
Have a nice
Tiffany.
evening.
Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Okay. So we're moving on to item 8B, which is, this is an informational item, which is about the revision of our dredging plan. So as you know, dredging our reservoir is super high priority. It's been much harder than we ever thought it would be to just get this thing accomplished for many reasons. But as you'll see in here, we thought we were going to be able to, we had to put the dredge materials somewhere, and the engineer said you have to put them on city-owned property to avoid some costly extra permitting issues. We initially planned to put them out at the city shop, but because the landowner next door has filled in a lot of their land, it's changed how things, the drainage configuration, so now it's not going to work. And so John had actually a brilliant idea, which is to use the horse arena area at Buffington Park as an alternative location to receive the dredge materials. So it's kind of a bummer because obviously it's not a good situation for the park users, but looking at the big picture, it's a temporary situation and we really don't have any other good alternative. We have to be able to put this wet material somewhere till it can dry.
And it will drain well there.
And drain and dry out. And then since we are going to be doing this planning process for the park, presumably it will be able to be regraded and grassed. So anyway, that's kind of a matter of just we wanted to share that information.
When is that going to happen?
Well, it's going to happen this summer. Because the dredging is going to happen has to happen during the in-stream work season for streams. So it's going to happen between July 15th and October 30th. That's the timing. In that area is Mike Hewitt. And so I called him personally just to tell him about it. And he asked us, what about the Sorensen parcel? So that's the watershed land up high in the mountain. So I checked in also with Curry Soil and Water Conservation District about that idea. And Erin said there's some really small culverts on that road that she thought, like if we were hauling trucks up and down, it would blow out, and that the cost
Be quite a-
for the road and all that kind of stuff would be probably high. So just to tell you, I turned that stone. Of course, I also did research on there really
Looked at
aren't
all the places.
properties owned by the city,
Can the ponds that are there by the reservoir be used at all, like for a certain amount? They're completely out of the,
For right now, for this permit, no. Because
Moving
we're,
forward, yes.
we're using 22, we have to remove 2,200 square yards, cubic yards. Yeah, sorry.
Nope, just make,
Cubic yards. But yeah, anyway, so that's that matter. Any other questions? Anyway, okay. So next item of business related to the reservoir dredging is we put this project out to bid again this year, and we got 4 bids. And they ranged from low to high, and the engineer reviewed the bids and recommended that we take the lowest bid, which is Billiter Marine. And so what we need to do is we have to adopt this, take this bid basically at this point. Does anybody have any questions? If anybody got a chance to look at it, it's quite a range of prices from about 275,000 all the way up to 430,000. And there were some different methods that they were going to use. The expensive one actually would have not, it was going to be decanting the water right up there, which we kind of actually liked, but we have to take the lowest bid. So if you don't have any questions, I would entertain a motion to approve this bid. But if you have any questions, we can discuss it further.
So which is the lowest bid here that we're looking at?
Billiter, is it Billiter?
Billiter Marine.
out of Coos Bay.
I'll make a motion to approve the Billiter Marine bid.
So if you look at this graph,
The chart.
the chart has the comparison of
There
the,
it is.
there you go.
Wow. It's amazing how extremely different they can be, isn't it?
Yep.
And then do we know anything about Billiter? I mean, does
So
Civil West-
I did some calling because they did have some information on their bid paperwork to say, you know, other projects that they had done. So I called, they had done some work with the city of Bandon. And so I called their public works director and asked about it. And he gave them a good recommendation that what they did up there for them and their drinking water source area, that they did a good job, and that he would trust them with things. One thing he said was that they did a good job of, if plan A doesn't work, they're, you know, thoughtful about other options and other plans of how to get something done, which is always good, you know, not a one-trick pony. So that was good. Some things that we'll have to look at with them, because their bid is a mechanical removal. So like with a excavator situation, is that because they're in our water source, we'll need to ensure that they are using like mineral oil in their hydraulics, and, you know, vegetable oil, biodiesel for their fuels and things like that, because it is a sensitive situation.
They don't break
and our-
through the
Right.
clay.
Right.
And that they don't break through the liner with that. They have to be very careful with that. And to remind folks that even with that, the other cost to all this, so this is one part of the cost. The other cost is to hire the water package plant to pre-treat the water before it goes into our water treatment plant, and we'll be pulling out of our old water source, which is Garrison Lake. So there could be different, the water could taste different or whatever, because it will be an alternate water source. So if it was only just the physical dredging, that would be one thing, but it's also having to set all of that up to make sure that we can process that water well out of our.
They're not Billiter isn't organizing that.
No, that's through a different company called Veolia, is the people that do some of them are called Rent-A-Rain, you know, but it's a pre-treatment plant that the water will be pumped through and go through. But you still have to do all of the pipes and some pumps and, configure the electrical and put a T into different things. But so there's lots of work and lots of things that will go into that. It's not only the dredging.
And some of that could be an option down the road, the T and some of the.
So another project that
investment.
we've been working on is with the raw water tank, the extra tank that could be there. So we're trying to be thoughtful with our infrastructure that we're building there with different valves and different situations there that it could be, that will help us in the future to get some of that work taken care of. And that if we ever had a situation up there that we could, quickly after we do this, more quickly, be able to get onto an alternate water source if we had to. So we really are trying to be very thoughtful that all of these steps that we're taking can build on making us more resilient and having more redundancy within our system, because that's what we're lacking. If something happens, then we don't have a lot of redundancy built in. So having that would be a positive. So we're trying to be very, very cognizant of that.
There are still some steps in this bid process. We award the bid, but one of the things that Melissa and I were kind of shocked at was that we don't have a lot of information about what their actual plan is. And the engineer has explained that once after we award the bid, then they will explain more of their plan, which quite honestly seems, backwards to me. But that is
What we've been told.
What we've been told. So there is going to be another kind of step in the process that once we look at the plan and, it's got to all work out, as Melissa said, to meet our things. So let's hope
Probably an investment for them to figure all that out. They
Yeah.
don't want to do it unless
Right.
it's real.
So will we get if you award the bid, then will you get a breakdown of the costs overall? Because their site preparation is 93,000.
Yeah.
And the engineer's estimate is 12. One of the others is 18,500. So it's
Why? Yeah. And
would we get a breakdown of those costs and why?
yeah, we probably would. But I think, and what we think is the case there from talking to the engineer is they have really big equipment. So they have to basically rebuild the road down to the reservoir and create all of this area for their gigantic monster piece of equipment. Whereas the other companies didn't have that. So the company that's the most expensive has almost no site preparation because they were going to use a much smaller dredge that was a suction dredge. And so that would have been
Totally different method.
totally different method. And then they were going to decant the water. And so that was expensive, was doing the processing of the water on site, but then they wouldn't have had so anyway,
Trucking.
yeah.
This includes the trucking to the
Yeah.
arena.
So it was kind of weird. It was a learning experience to us because, as I said, I thought that we should know more ahead of time. And she's like, well, that's not the way it works. They give you the bid and then you have to give the lowest bid. We have to accept, which does not seem like a good thing to me. Because what if I decided I wanted to do it and put in a bid for $100,000 or something, right? I mean, that would be ridiculous. But I mean, these people have their credentials but it's just
Good
the whole,
having the recommendation.
yes. That makes sense.
And the main thing with this too is that's why they put all that information so we can call kind of on references, and you have to take the lowest qualified bid. So, so that's part of also the process of this is once we see their methods and if, there can be some questions and things with that as well. So
And
this is
there's,
just the first step.
Questions if they had labor issues, or there's some things that the engineer goes through to check their qualifications. And this company has done work for the city in the past of different sorts and is out of Coos Bay. They do a lot of this kind of stuff up and down the coast. So
It makes me realize that I got into the wrong business and I should have been a dredger or something, because this seems to be another option for kids to do.
So I think we have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Rask.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I have to vote too. I'm sorry. I'm so used to not voting. Yes. Okay. The next item is the Forest Stewardship Plan update. So that's 8D. So if you recall, when the city was trying to buy the 160 acres in its watershed upstream of the reservoir, we had to get a big grant to do it. It's the actual
I'm not
plan's
seeing
not in there. It's on page 19.
And they put it up there.
Oh, great. Okay. So,
I think it was online.
we had to do, as part of that whole process of getting the grant and everything, we had to do a forest stewardship plan. And so we did this plan. We hired a Springboard Forestry. Ben Hayes came out, did the whole thing. Council adopted it in 2023. Then more recently, as you know, we got a $400,000 Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, OWEB grant to pay it off. And as one of the conditions of that grant is that we had to update our forest stewardship plan to reflect certain changes. And I listed them in here. We had to basically we had to update it to change the new ownership of the land, which is now the city of Port Orford, and we're now calling that parcel the East Fork parcel instead of the Wilson parcel. And instead of the Conservation Fund parcel. We had to include the grant requirements that the lands to be managed for drinking water protection into perpetuity. And then there were a few clarifications that OWEB requested, including more specificity about the limits of recreational access without permission. Like, we don't have people just walking into the drinking watershed. It's not open access there. And a little bit more about, there are some easements for forest management activities. Like, if we did want to do some forest thinning or something, there's some roads that we have access easement through other people. So we had to add all those things to it. So Ben at Springboard did those updates, and I reviewed them. They're done. And so when we update this, we will be able to invoice OWEB to pay for this update, and then we'll be able to close out the grant. So it will be like finally putting a
cherry on top.
checking that one, and then you can erase it from your
And I can
list
erase
of
it off
of
my
grants. We'll
list
put it
of
behind us.
Great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So, there's a picture of the culvert before it crashed and started to compress and
That's the
collapse.
one that we're concerned with.
That's the one we're fixing, yeah. But the plan identified that as as a priority to fix. Anyway, so I would entertain a motion to accept the updated plan or adopt the updated plan.
So moved.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Rask.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Ann, and I will vote yes too. Thank you. I'm so not used to voting anymore now that I'm
I got you.
here.
I got you. I'll
Thank
keep
you.
poking you.
Poke me. Okay. The next item is 8E, our police levy discussion. So as of today, I'm pleased that Joseph he waited for the period of whereby the ballot language could have been challenged. It was not. So we have our language into the county for the ballot measure for our repealing and replacing our police levy. So now we've done step 1 through 6 here, and now we're on to the next steps, which is that we have to organize the community campaign to pass the police levy. And so Counselor Burns had come up with a few ideas, and I just kind of put some of those, he had come up with it as questions. I put him into a lineup of sort of the order of things I think we need to do. You can see there, we've got to organize a committee of counselors and citizens to help with this campaign. We have to set up a PAC, so that's a political action committee that can accept donations and hold the money for the campaign. This all has to be done outside the city because the city can't engage in political activity. We have to come up with a succinct slogan and a public education campaign. We've got to develop the information for the campaign, including specific information about what people get with their police service and what it's going to cost for our taxpayers, and that the fee is going to go away. We have to determine the avenues for outreach for all the things we might do. And then we have to come up with a schedule to make it all happen before May 19th. Along with everything
No
else.
problem.
So basically, and then we have to figure out who can do what, recognizing that we're going to need, I think, all of the counselors to be talking to different parts of the community about why this is important. So I think in the packet, I had just asked, how should we go about organizing this, and who on council? Basically, maybe this is why nobody came tonight. Only 3 of you can participate.
Well, they'll be the ones that'll be doing it.
Should we assign
He'll be voluntold.
I volunteer them.
Good idea. It's, we have to organize a committee, and last time we just did, counselors did it, but it was just like a renewal. I think this is going to be a little bit of a heavier lift because it's a repeal and replace and it's a higher rate. So it does seem like the first step is to organize a committee of counselors and citizens. So how do you think we should organize that? Do you guys have ideas for citizens who would be interested? Should we just put out kind of a general call, like make an announcement and have a meeting to organize the committee?
The problem is, where do you put out the announcement and make sure it reaches everybody?
Well, we start with we're starting a committee, so we could put it out on Facebook. We could put out some posters. I mean, like we do with everything, and just have a meeting. I mean, the committee.
Can it be more than 3 counselors?
Well, I'm thinking it could be
All of them?
citizens. It could be all the counselors, but if we do it all the counselors, then we have to, always put out notice for public meetings. We have to meet in this setting. Whereas if we had
3.
3, we could, like, if we had 3 counselors and 3 citizens, then we could just meet at any time. Or if we had 2 counselors and the mayor or something like that, we could do that. And like I had to talk to Councilor Levendahl, told me she might be willing to help with coming up with information about what it will cost people. So there might be ways that all of us can participate, but in terms of like having a steering committee, I don't know.
Well, I'll get involved in whatever way.
Thank you, Councilor
Yeah, I
Burns.
think I will too.
Great, thank you. What do you want to do on it, Councilor Brennan? Do you have any things that you would like to help with in particular? Because I'm thinking if different ones of us could help with different pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I'll help out where I can,
Great.
but I want to be cautious about where I help out.
Yeah, I kind of have to too.
So,
I'm overextended.
Right, yeah. Okay. Well, it's, I think I feel like the first step, that the thing we have to do is follow these steps. Like, we don't have to do it all at once, but we have to follow these steps. And the first one is to organize a committee of counselors and citizens. And the first thing to do that is, I think, picking a date, putting out an announcement, kind of organizing a meeting to see if we can get a committee together.
Maybe we could put something out at that meeting that's coming up on the 25th and 26th. Isn't there something there about water?
Oh, the Watershed Council?
Piece.
You mean?
There's something that's happening at Mr. Ed's.
Yeah, the Watershed Council meeting. I'm going to go to that so I can
Put the word out there.
put the word out. Yeah.
Part of it.
We can put something, can we put something on Facebook if we're having a?
Not from the
committee?
city not the
yeah.
city
So-
Facebook page, but you
so-
can put where the notices where people are used to looking, which is at the post office and at the laundromat and, things like that, where regular notices get posted, that people look to that. So,
So what should we
Can they-
call it?
The water bill be used?
nope, because that's city infrastructure.
What should we call it? Like Public Safety Committee or Police Levy Committee? Or like what would be a good to start? What would make it? Doesn't sound like a committee I'd really like to join, but but we have to make it. How do we do it? It's super important, as
It
we
is super
know.
important.
So
Public safety is always a good idea.
And throw levy in there?
Yeah.
Public Safety Levy Committee, work group, or
Probably committee would opt for.
because I think if we get that committee going, then as long as council is okay with it, we could, unless we want to be involved with the messaging and everything, I think the committee could just at that point take it and run with it. And like some of the counselors have already done a lot of the research on this, so we can be supplying information to the committee, on like the costs and all that kind of jazz. So anyway,
And then what's involved in setting up the PAC?
I did it last time, and it's just basically getting a special bank account. And I could probably just do it this time too, because it has to be like, it's kind of weird. It's sort of appended to your personal account. You know what I mean? Like, cause if you're the signer on it, but I think I can almost still have it there because I did it last time. So, or you could do it. And it's just, it's a place where you put the money, and then primarily the money is needed for signs. And last time, I think we had a budget of like $250 or something for signs.
You think that's the only thing that we would need the money for?
I don't know. We might want to do flyers. I don't know. I think it's up.
Probably not enough places to put flyers to put too much money into it.
Could
With the yard sign, you're talking about yard
Yard
signs,
signs,
like
yeah.
plastic.
The yard signs, I think I don't know that they all got put out, because I've got 30 signs from the last time, and some of them
really?
look like they were used.
I think it's putting 30 signs out is hard in Port Orford. That's about as many people that want to put out a sign,
That's a lot.
So we could probably get about that many again, or fewer, 25 or something.
What do the signs say?
They aren't appropriate.
Oh,
They were from last time. They were great. They said, keep
They were
retro
good for
that
the
thing and
West.
just vintage
They
it
were
right on
saying,
back out,
vote yes,
I say.
keep our police local, vote yes.
I've
Something
got
like
a,
that. Yeah, it was a good little sign.
says,
anyway.
vote yes, renew our police levy, keep police local, keep taxes low. So we're not really renewing, so it really isn't appropriate wording.
Yep.
So we've got to figure out what that.
It is
wording
vote yes, but it's not that.
It's the taxes. low.
Right.
People aren't going to see it that way.
Right.
Mhm.
So
That out.
black, redact. Okay,
Stickers.
so,
Because I'd go ahead and get the signs. We just need to figure out what. to
Yeah.
put on them,
so I think that would be the first step of the committee would be to do that.
Determine the slogan and.
Yeah, do you think I mean, I think for us, since, we need to move on this before the next council meeting, which is next April, 3 weeks from now, we need to get hopping on this like ASAP. So do we feel comfortable with this process of like kickstarting a committee? And I mean, we don't really have a choice because we
Right.
can't do it. But if anybody has any other ideas or input for this, I guess that's it. Otherwise, this is how I would just plan to move forward.
Can we ask for citizens to participate personally? Can we like
Yeah.
go to somebody and say, hey?
Yeah, exactly. I think
Like you
if-
need to. I don't think that's, I think you need to
Okay.
get it out as much
Because-
as you can.
I think what would really help is if we could figure out, well, who are the citizens who would really be interested to help with this project? Because, I mean, it's kind of a good little project because basically, as I said, I think we're going to have to we'll get the signs out. We'll probably do, a town hall meeting and maybe some talks at, like, I'm going to do a talk at the senior center at the end of April. Maybe some others of us could talk at other groups that we might have associations with or affiliations with, or set up another talk. We talked about having a major town hall again, and maybe this time we could have a town hall in the community building instead of here. So, we have to just kind of get all those lined out. So having other people to help would be really good. So definitely think about who might be our public safety nerds,
Do we need 3 citizens?
at least.
Okay.
If there's more, it could be
Could be
any
more.
number. It's
Okay.
just, we just have to watch the quorum thing for council. So,
And then then the committee would meet outside of here.
right,
Right.
we can't meet here. No. Yeah, so I guess we'll have to find a place to meet and figure out when to do it.
And if you're going to do a town hall, you need to rent the community building if that's where you want to have it. So it's not like, oh, we can give you a deal because it's part of city business.
We
That's,
did, I think last time didn't we do a town hall here last time? Well, no, that was related to
We haven't had many.
we didn't do a town hall for that. That was related to the fee, which is city business. So, okay.
It'd be great to do it there. It would be a positive atmosphere and
Yes.
encourage people to.
Yeah.
But also, we're probably gonna have a lot of people.
Well, I don't know if we will or not.
Yeah,
Well,
doesn't
it's a
seem like
touchy subject.
people don't usually, I don't know.
Yeah, hard to tell.
When we had the town hall about the fee, hardly anybody very few people showed up. So, anyway, but we have to do, I want to do one. We want to do one and explain it and put it forward because it is the best. It's the best path forward toward having a sustainable budget for our community and for having the police service stay intact. So, okay, well, so why don't we, Counselor Burns, figure out a time to do it and figure out, Perry, when you can make it too, and we can set it up and set up the meeting and we'll go from there.
And you have to be able to make it too.
I don't have to, but I would do it to help start it off.
Okay.
Unless you guys don't want me to be, but if you want to do it, I'd be happy to not do it, but
maybe if you did the pack part and then they
Yeah.
could do
yeah,
that other
I'm
part. just-
thinking about the town hall. I think you should probably do the town hall.
Yeah. yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we can get together and discuss that at another time. Okay, boy, we're just cruising. The last item on the agenda is 8F, which is time off for Melissa, which is, as you know, earlier this year, we did the official evaluation of Administrator Radcliffe. And typically, when somebody does a good job in their work, they would get a raise or some sort of acknowledgement of that. But since the city of Port Orford has zero extra money, we can't really give Melissa any raise, even though you are worth it. We so appreciate you. And so we had discussed the idea of giving her sort of some time off as an alternative way to provide some additional compensation. So it's proposed that we give her an award of 5 days off. That would give her the opportunity to just have a little bit more personal time and as a way to give her special compensation.
Do we need to identify when that time is, or want to just leave it open?
And we don't need a motion for that.
No, you do. Would need to entertain a motion that we do that.
I'll make a motion to award our city administrator with 5 days off at her choosing.
I second.
Any further discussion of that? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Counselor Rask,
Yes.
Counselor Burns,
Yes.
Counselor Brennan,
Yes.
and I vote yes too.
Thank you.
So you get that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now we are moving on to considerations. So the first considerations we have are citizen considerations. So do we have any citizens present that would like to make any comments at this time? No? Do we have any citizens online who would like to participate in this part?
Once again, I'm just giving it a second. It does not appear as though anyone is raising their hand or commenting.
Okay. Do we have any staff? Oops. Do we have any staff that would like to make any comments or raise any considerations?
No, just thank you for that time. I will tell you when I'm taking it because my son is graduating from college in May. And so I will be going and taking some time to go celebrate that with the family. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Any counselor considerations?
I wanted to bring up the homeless camp at Ray's Woods and suggest that we have a workshop really soon to discuss some different.
Is it out of control again?
Can you speak into the microphone a little bit more, Wiz? Can you speak into the microphone just a little bit more?
There's some different options that we could discuss, but it's not really working out great the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm on the neighbor to neighbor board again, and there's a possibility of the neighbor to neighbor presenting a proposition. But I think we need to determine if Ray's Woods is a good location. Terry at Ray's said that because he hasn't been here and commented, it's not because he's approving of the camp. It's really creating awful problems at the market.
It always has.
And the folks that have the home right next to the property finally decided to sell because of the situation, and now he's wanting to buy the property because of the camp. And any neighbor that's anywhere near there has written letters, and and there is another city property that could be looked into. Ann and I walked at the property behind Car Care. Is a Tishner Street that goes into a wetland, but there's a big section where Dave McKetchin has his boat storage is on the one side and Car Care is on the other. So there's a wetland on one end and Car Care and the boat rental, and then there's a vacant property across the street. As just a possibility, it would probably take a little bit of work to create some campsites in there.
So this is really
Or-
just to make sure that it's not always just at Ray's Woods, because we still need to provide a place where we say that folks can be, is my
Which could
understanding. And
be
so
this
so you're just
property
trying
and-
to talk about to
And then
move
we
it.
could
from-
say that they just can't camp at Ray's Woods. And they can't camp at Buffington, and they can't, but they
Right.
can. Or we can do like Bandon, and there's a number of other towns and cities that don't have a designated camp. I've been gathering information that I can present.
And I would be interested in that because again, the last guidance that we had heard from the League of Oregon Cities and meetings we've gone to was still talking about if you can tell folks where they can't be in the parks, sleeping in business alcoves, things like that, then you do have to allow people, you have to tell them where they can be. And so if there's new guidance coming out about that or whatever, I would like to know that or to find another solution.
So at the last council meeting, we had asked for this to be put on
Mhm.
to the agenda or to have a discussion. And I think that you were going to also be, or that you've had some conversations with our law enforcement
I have.
officers to
Mhm.
kind of try to come up with some ideas that staff could bring as well. Because we've talked about this and for some reason we've not managed to, I mean, it's an intractable problem. It's
Right.
difficult. So for some reason, it's been hard to deal with.
Right.
So it seems like, we need to, as you're saying, we had intended to have some sort of workshop before summer season
Correct,
gets.
because it will ramp up. It'll ramp up.
And it
again.
seems like it might be ramping up already just because of weather being nice, or I don't know. It's, so we should, I hear you, Gary, and it seems like that is something we should put on to the schedule. So should we try to put, what do you think, Melissa, I know we're like so maxed out with the budgeting and the auditing.
Negotiations and
the
audit.
labor negotiations and all that kind of stuff, but we're already here in mid-March. So when should we try to get a work session onto the schedule for that?
Well, if we want to do it this, again, so you're saying more discussion as this and bring the end-to-end people in to talk about some of the options? Is that what your vision is for that? Okay.
And
Well,
I
whenever you
would-
want to call one.
And I would like to, I mean, what I would hope to have too is to get some input from staff I had hoped that we could get some input from staff on how the situation could be improved or what needed to happen. So maybe that work session could have that element of it as well.
Okay. When would you like to do that?
It would be nice to do it in maybe early April, just to give enough. I know it's just going to ramp up for all the other things we're working on too. So we're just going to.
Now, what about the budget committee?
Yep, all that's going to be too. Yep. So we have.
Now, will we have a finance committee meeting before that?
We probably should. It's been kind of, part of the finance committee did meet around the whole police levy thing. So we got that work under our belt, but we've been kind of waiting till the Kaitolas get up to speed.
Something to work with.
Yes, Joseph.
Right now, the budget committee looks like we've tentatively scheduled a potential first meeting for April 16th before the city council meeting.
All right.
We are double checking that all that works, but you'll know for certain within the next 2 weeks because I have to put the notice in the paper before the meeting. So
Now, would that include citizens,
the budget committee meeting or the notice?
the budget committee?
Yes.
Yes, budget. I've already contacted the members. I've gotten 3 responses. So I'm just tracking down the last 2 to see if they're still willing and able to serve.
Of the past committee members?
That is correct. I believe that means we currently have 2 vacancies on the budget committee if any citizens are interested.
I probably have somebody that's interested.
All right.
Great.
And like I said.
We'll rope them in.
Yeah, have them contact Joseph to get on that. That'd be great.
Yep. And what we'll do then is if we have people apply before that meeting, we'll start with a quick session of the city council so that we can formally appoint them and then go straight into the first budget meeting. But like I said, you'll have at least 2 to 3 weeks of notice before that meeting happens.
So if we do that meeting on the 16th, then would be like the regular council meeting would be 5:30. Would we do like the budget committee meeting from like 3 to
4 is what we're looking at right now.
4 to 5:30 kind of
Yeah.
thing as the first budget session? It was great to actually review the budget committee minutes from last time to see what we did. And and then we'd have the meeting. Okay. Well, so if we did that, then the beginning of April could be a time to do the work session. Would that give enough time?
I will not be back in town until the 4th.
Right. I was thinking, let's see.
And that also is one of the staff members who would be a good, like the best voice to have in that
Right.
situation. So
So
I
maybe
would
we
say
need to
after
put it
that.
off a little
at the
bit,
4th.
but maybe we need to put it off a little bit then. So like the
Week
9th,
of the 6th through the 10th, we'll be back. So
And I'm gone then.
the 9th, would be a day, or we could wait and do it like after our council meeting. I mean, I tended to just sort of stick with Thursdays because we have this,
It's hard to do budget committee and then a council meeting and then that after.
no, I mean the following week.
Oh, on the 9th?
Well,
Or the
either the
23rd.
9th or the 23rd.
I can't do the 9th.
Plus the 9th is when the Parks meeting would be, which Budget Committee would supersede them. So you could do it on the 9th.
What about the 23rd?
23rd would avoid scheduling conflicts though.
We're actually talking now about the homeless
Right.
Oh,
The work
work
session.
session. Yeah, so will we shoot ourselves in the foot if we have to schedule a budget committee meeting that time?
Yeah,
or
because
we
I
just
think,
gonna-
I want to say the Kaitolas, I think the Kaitolas are unavailable on the 21st and 23rd.
Right, okay, so
And
we
so-
can't do it, yeah.
So
But they would be on the 16th,
they are going to be here on the 16th. We've already had them do their calendar.
and
But
then they would
what we-
have something for us to work with.
That's the plan, yeah. That's what we talked about with them. But then, yeah, I want to say the 21st and 23rd is what's saying that they are unavailable, but maybe the 20th and 22nd they are. So, because usually when we do budget committee, we do the first part of it and then we schedule like 3 or 4 of them throughout the next couple of weeks. So it's kind of bang, 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 bang to work things out. So that the homeless workshop could be amongst that if we did it on the 23rd. But that might be some back-to-back meetings. But
That seems like I mean, if we put it off,
Mhm.
that's already getting to be spring, so let's aim for that.
The
And
23rd.
That might give us enough time, give staff enough, give everybody enough time to
at 5:30,
prepare for it. Yeah. And then we will, for the rest of the scheduling of the budget committee meetings, that's still just you're working on it with the Kaitolas. Is that what we're doing? I forget. Did
well, we started talking about it, and so we can look at that early next week, but we
We had-
solidified the 16th, and
Yes.
then they have dates that they aren't available, because they're also working with Cottage Grove, and they're working with other places, so this is their busy time too. And so we'll have to find some dates of those next couple of weeks with them to solidify with them,
Yeah.
so. But
And then
we
we
can
can-
talk about that like maybe early next week to
Yes.
solidify
And
it.
then we should just get the information out to
Yep.
everybody so we can get it onto our busy calendars.
Now, to loop around back to the levy PAC idea, if we just had the money, if it would be for the community center, if we had a town hall meeting, is that right? So we'd need $150 for that, and the signs would be under 100, I think.
Yeah.
We did 25.
Mhm.
So if we could get enough money without a PAC, do we have to have a PAC to?
I think we have to, I'll go back in and look at my notes on it, because I think the PAC, like if there's a cutoff to how much you have to spend, and if it's under a certain amount, you might not need it. Because I remember last time thinking, did we really have to go through all this rigmarole or not? I remember Counselor Webb, the reason I set it up is Counselor Webb was like, you have to get a PAC, So I set it up, but let me double check.
Because
Are
if we
you
could,
talking about like if people are donating personally?
yeah,
I think I mean, that is the cleanest way to do it, but if the whole amount is like $250 and you have a couple people donate $100 and it's like 3 donors or something, then I
we
don't know
might
if
not
we have
need
to
it.
do it.
Because then it would just make it a little less complicated.
I'll review that.
And we just have to see what the energy is for it, because there's only going to be so much energy for it.
You said Counselor Leppendahl is willing to help with the what on that?
She was interested in, how we did when we were talking about the, how much it's going to cost, and looking at like, well, if your property valuation
Oh,
is
right.
Okay,
100,000, then you are going to owe this much, or just to help people know what it's going to cost. And so she said she would be interested to do some work on that to help develop that information. And we did do some preliminary work on that already when we were, as a council, discussing the idea.
Right.
So, anyway.
So you think you could help a little bit on it?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I don't know how all of what the options are, but if we were to deal with email
With
or
what?
emailing, like if I'm just trying to figure out how the easiest way to deal with it and be able to work it in for all of us so we don't have to commit to certain times. And
Yeah, you mean like email person?
like the biggest, one of the first things would be to come up with the slogan, what goes on the signs.
We'll start working on that.
Well,
And
so,
I've got some ideas I can email you. Do
Yeah,
you,
we'll get back and forth with each other on that.
and then are you using your city email?
Yeah.
Okay.
so, but I think the thing is, we have to talk about this as citizens. So it's kind of a weird thing because I guess if we're not doing it as city, then we don't have to work. Do we not have to worry? No, we still have to worry about a quorum if this is not city business?
Even if you are acting as private citizens, because you serve on the council, you have to do your best to avoid a quorum. And
Right.
if you're going to create a quorum, then we have to notify the public that
Right.
there's
Okay.
gathering of city officials that
Will not-
constitutes quorum.
We'll not be discussing city business, but anyway, okay. Well, I'm just thinking about, you could be emailing on personal email if it's not
Personal email.
it's not official city business.
Now, I'm just wondering if, I was just thinking if we had the council and advertised the meeting and just kind of turned it into, no, we can't do a town hall with that. I mean, I was just wondering if we had our discussion, we opened it to the public to be there, but that wouldn't be,
You mean, so like, instead of going this order, that like, let's say 3 of us get together and organize the town hall meeting as the first step, and then have that be the kickoff. That is another way to do it. The benefit of having more citizens participate earlier is that if we can identify them, then they might be able to bring more ideas, or they could maybe bring more people, or we could start the conversation going before we have the town hall.
More positive energy.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And it seems to me
Okay.
if you're going to have a town hall and bring people in to educate, because that's the biggest piece, is to educate what the value and what's for and what it's going to cost and those things. You're going to want a tight message that's clear, succinct, whatever for that, I think. So having a town hall to discuss it seems like that, I don't know that would be your best use of time. I think when you are educating why we need this, then I think it needs to be a really clear, succinct,
point.
targeted message. And
Melissa, I know when we had talked earlier about, trying to understand when we were doing the budgeting work to lead to this, we've talked in the past about how the general fund has been, putting a lot more money into the public safety funds, and like how to visually demonstrate this and stuff. Is that, as council members or as citizens, can we ask for that information? We can ask for that information.
absolutely, it's all
right?
public
To
record.
be able to help us to have that
Absolutely.
information. So, because that's another thing to try to help convey.
Mhm.
So then we'd be trying to schedule a town hall in May,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Prior to the election.
Yeah. Late April or early May.
Probably a couple weeks before election day, because a lot of people vote by mail and they would have already done their thing. So I think you'd want to
Alright.
have your messaging out, not right on the day, because lots of people obviously vote early here.
So, yeah, it's just going to happen super quick. We're going to want to have our town hall either the last week of April or the first week of May. So,
Hey, guys, this is Jen Bailey. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I believe that you are still on the agenda with citizen concerns. I didn't speak up.
no, we are not.
Um,
Actually, we had citizen concerns and now we're on to the counselor concerns. So,
Okay,
past that part, we did open it up to everybody in the public. So,
did. Gary brought up some new issues and I'll just contact you all
okay, that'd be great.
later. Thanks. Okay.
Just because we're kind of focused on what we're what we're doing right now. So I think anything more on this issue that we're discussing right now?
So we need to set a time for this committee meeting.
Yeah.
And we don't know when that's going to be yet, right?
I mean, we can look at our calendars right now, or we can do it outside of this meeting and just do it.
I mean, I'm leaving town on Monday and I'll be back on the 4th.
Do you know I just have one of my calendars here, so it would be better for me to just maybe meet. We can talk about it after this meeting.
Sure.
Okay. Any other things? So we're done with counselor considerations. And I will just say, I'm so sorry that so many of us are sick. So I hope everybody else stays healthy and takes good care, and the rest of our staff. I know we've had staff that are sick.
We have had lots of
so
staff out sick
everybody
too.
wash your hands and stay healthy, and our citizens too. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 7. What?
Future meetings.
Oh, thank you, Joseph. So the next meeting we just described was going to be we discussed that. It's going to be on April 16th at 5:30. And we're going to have before that budget committee meeting from probably 4 to 5:30.
April 16th is buddy. And then,
Okay.
yep.
Anything else am I missing? No? Okay. Take 2. We're going to adjourn this meeting at 7:12. Thank you.